Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, the members of the commission, for inviting me to speak here this evening. I agree with much of what has been said already, particularly the comments regarding same-day voter registration and agency-based voter registration. I do want to mention an issue that has not been raised thus far, and that is the fact that at least 20% of the voting age population in New York City is disenfranchised all the time. And I am referring to non-citizen immigrants. Non-citizens pay taxes, they can serve in the military, but they cannot vote. I think this is blatantly unfair and no doubt alienating to a large segment of New York City's population. Yet the worrisome consequence of this to me is that non-citizens do not have access to democratic means of having their grievances aired and considered by the general public. As the great sociologist and New Yorker Robert Merton wrote over a half century ago, groups denied access to legal means of representation and redress are often tempted to find illegal ways to have their needs met. Having 1/5 of the adult population excluded from local politics creates a playground for crime and corruption. There is no logic to this, in my opinion, other than politics and nativism. And as David Jones mentioned earlier, incumbents don't want new voters they are not familiar with. And so I think it is important for commissions such as this one to take this issue seriously. As Harry Kresge mentioned just now, another 15% or so of the voting age population cannot vote in important local primaries because they are registered as independents. Across the country, younger African Americans and Latinos, as well as newly incorporated immigrants, are increasingly tending to register as independents. Because in most elections in New York City, the Democratic candidate wins the general election overwhelmingly, independent voters are effectively excluded from much of local politics. And I won't repeat everything Harry just said, but I cannot think of a good reason to exclude them from local elections outside of partisan politics. The political science data on research on this issue is kind of old, and I also don't think city-to-city comparisons are that useful for New York in political science because New York is so different from many other cities, but the studies that have been done tend to show little or no difference in minority participation in partisan versus nonpartisan elections. Taking non-citizens and independents together, at least 1/3 of the voting age population in New York is regularly excluded from most elections. So it is not surprising that many of them have little interest. The primary system in New York now protects incumbents and discourages newcomers and party outsiders. Turnout in some primaries has been as low as 10%, and some officials are elected with a minority of these low votes, only to be assured of victory in the general election. This is an abysmal situation that calls out for reform. It is hard to predict what the effect of nonpartisan voting would be in New York because, as I said, New York differs from other large cities in many crucial respects, particularly in the strength of the mayor's office and in the power of its civic organizations, especially large labor unions in New York that, it is worth noting, are mainly minority-led. To give you one example, I did a study a while ago of